If we knew what lies ahead of every turn, there would be no thrill. If we knew what the next day would be like, there would be no challenge. Clinging to certainty, life would be comfortable, but boring and limited. Stepping into uncertainty helps us find balance in chaos, recognize our strengths, and opens up infinite possibilities in our lives. It helps us learn lessons that we would not learn while we stay snuggled up in our comfort zone. Hi, I'm Prachi Biswas, Vice President, Training and Development, ANON Global Foundation, and today we are here with yet another interesting conversation at ANONTalks. Uncertainties break or shape our life. Today, we are joined by a very esteemed guest, Miss Isabelle Stephenson, a certified life coach and blogger. With a wide-ranging experience, Isabelle is proficient at coaching on how our brain works and how we can achieve a healthier and deeper relationship with ourselves. Her motto in life is that a better life doesn't just happen, you make it happen. Welcome to the show, Isabelle.
Well, thank you so much. Hello, Prachi. How are you today? It's an honor being here with you.
Very well. Thank you so much. And it's a pleasure to have you on board ANONTalks.
Glad to be here.
So, Isabelle, life has thrown innumerable curveballs your way, and uncertainties have been an integral part of your everyday life. Please share a few major experiences that changed your life completely, and how did you respond to these unsettling uncertainties?
Yeah, so that's a very deep question. And just before I answer, uncertainty is one of those things that none of us like, right? And again, that's part of our brain. We're like, oh, no, we don't want to feel that. Let's push it aside, right? So the first major life event is when my mom passed and I was a little girl. I was 6 years old. So how I responded back then is as a child, I was an adult. I didn't have any emotional regulation like I do now or any tools. So grieving was very different then. I think if I remember correctly, a lot of it came out when I was a teenager. That I found that very interesting because I think I had, dealt with it. And as a child, you move on and you go to school, and there was no counseling or anything then, how I responded, I guess, yeah, just like continue with life. But then as a teenager, it hit me. And then I had to work through some things. And also one way I dealt with that loss, it's a heavy loss, right? Losing your mom. Is when I was in my 40s. I had a mentor who really, really helped me with that loss. So I think then I came to more of a place of healing. And it's still a loss. Like if, I still get triggered and cry. And I think that's a healthy way actually of dealing with it is, it's sad. So I respond with sadness when appropriate. And one other way I responded to it is it came from a need, right? So the need was for me to have guidance and somebody to talk to, like a mom, and I didn't have that. So I reached out, and I've noticed that, across the years, I've always reached out to older women that were older than me, and ask them for advice or share life experiences with them and ask them questions. And I think that was a very healthy way of dealing with it. Excuse me, it's my cat.
That's okay, okay.
And more recently, last December, so it's almost coming up to a year, my brother passed, and it was a very sudden loss. He had dealt with a mental illness for over 30 years, and I need to explain, he was living in Germany and I had moved to the United States almost at the same time when he got diagnosed. I moved away. So that was the move is actually a very big part of a big life experience. That was also a loss, right? Losing my friends, my family, my country, my language, my surroundings, everything. But that loss last December, that hit me very deeply. It was my only brother. My dad had also passed, so that was the last of, you know, my immediate family. And at this time, so how did I respond to that? I let myself grieve, and I don't think grieving ever ends. It just changes, right? So the first wave of grief was just crying and feeling that pain, that loss, and also knowing that it was suicide. That was hard. It was sudden. It was, and it was so. He always took the next step. He always handled the next step. He always moved forward. He was such a good example of keeping going forward. But the last hospitalization, and he hadn't had many really with his disease, but the last one was just too much, and they put him on more medication and all that. So I could see a downward spiral after he was released from the hospital. So how did I respond other than the initial letting myself grieve? And I think that's very important, because we can't stuff it down, or we can drink it down, or we can chop it down, or we can eat it down. You know, we can do all these things to push it away, and that might feel good in the moment, but it doesn't deal with the emotion. So one way I'm still dealing with this is having a good support system where I can call people and say, hey, you know, today's a hard day, and they'll be like, yeah, call me, can talk about it. There's also grief shares, you know, groups here in the US where you can go to and share about your grief, and you have others with the same, not the same situation, but they all experience some sort of grief. So the support system is really important. I'm also writing every morning as if I'm writing to him, because he used to call in the mornings, and I miss that so much that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take that time where he used to call and write in a journal as if I always say good morning, Marcel, you know, in German, because we're German. And then I write him, and that feels good, and I have his picture right in front of me. So that's one way of, you know, dealing with not having him here. I don't know, do you want me to share more about this, or do you want me to share another situation, or what do you want, Prachi?
Actually, yes. I mean, with what you just said, the first step is that, you acknowledge your feelings. The moment
Yes,
you acknowledge your feelings, and you do not live in denial,
yes,
that's when you can actually vent out your true feelings. And when you have a good
yes,
support system, it helps you fight through these uncertainties. So,
exactly.
I think the audience would understand, how important it is to be truthful to yourself, if no one else, because
Yes,
that's how you can handle all the situations. So surviving such, tough times requires great strength, definitely, because, you always have a choice that you yourself can get into depression, and you yourself can, face mental health issues, but, fighting them out, and these tough times are actually tough. So I understand it's easier said than done. Everybody says, be strong, but it's not
yes,
that easy. It's not that easy.
it's not.
Yes. So how did you manage your emotions during these turbulent times? How
Yeah.
did you, stand up every morning and say, okay, I'll fight it out? How did you manage that?
So a lot has to do with having certain routines in place already. That was very beneficial to me, that I had already put some things in place that kept me getting up, kept me doing the journal, and kept me, also go for a walk every morning, most every morning. And that routine was something positive because it got me going in the morning, right? Also a healthy mindset. And so the mindset for me goes along, it's kind of like the twin of the emotional regulation. So the emotions, like you said, we need to accept them. And some of them are yucky. Grief and loss and anger and hurt, those uncertainty, those are not, oh yeah, let's go there. Those are not happy feelings.
Absolutely.
So to accept them is always the first step. Acceptance is always the first step, and you said that beautifully. Once I accept them, now how do I deal with it? And there's so many different ways, right? So I'm a big proponent for having a healthy mindset and regulating my feelings, and there's a way to do that, right? So very, very briefly is to always observe your thoughts. What are my thoughts? Maybe it's life is too hard. Life is too hard. Well, if I think that, then how do I feel and what do I do? I might probably, not get out of bed because life is too hard. So instead of doing that, I call that reframing that thought. And that is, okay, so life is hard and I can handle all challenges life brings, right? Because you have until now, I have until now, everybody who's listening has handled life's challenges until today. That should give us confidence that we can handle the next challenge. And I'm sorry to say there's going to be more challenges ahead, right? That's just part of life. We wouldn't be able to feel joy if we didn't have sadness. We wouldn't know what happiness is if we didn't know loss. Or certainty if we never had uncertainty. And I live in Florida, we just had Hurricane Ian come through the state, and some have lost their homes. Thank goodness we haven't lost our home. We've had some damage. There's uncertainty is always part of our lives, right? So a lot that you can do with the uncertainty is to have certain tools, and I don't have time to share all of them, but one of my favorites is affirmations. And that is not to say life is great or I feel wonderful today. But one of them I mentioned is, okay, an affirmation could be, this is hard and I can handle this, right? No buts, always and. So this is hard and I can handle it. I can handle what the challenges life brings to me. And when you repeat that, so the trick with affirmations is that you repeat it. And the more you repeat it, the more you grow into it. And the more you grow into it, the more it builds your confidence. So if I tell myself every day, I can handle life's challenges, right? Then that grows my confidence. And with a growing confidence, I will think and feel different. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. It definitely makes sense. And, I truly believe that's very important, as you said, affirmations, that's very important. And we always say affirmations like, I am confident, I am beautiful, but the way you have put it across is lovely, that you have to accept what is wrong in you and yet affirm that you can still manage that. So that's
exactly
beautifully
and
put.
it's part of that acceptance. I accept that life throws me challenges, so life is hard and life is beautiful. It's both. It's always both, maybe even the same day or in the same hour, right? It's both. And I can handle the challenges. And another affirmation I just learned, because we're always growing and we're always learning, right? Is, I will do what I can with what I have. I love that because it's so in the moment. And because when you're in a situation, a challenging situation, you can't think a year from now, you can't think a month from now, you might even not be thinking a day from now. So in this moment, right, I will do what I can with what I have, right? So for example, I can take myself for a walk. I can have a hot cup of tea because it's calming to my nervous system, right? What can I do? And those are important questions too. I call them empowering questions, not the what if or poor me. Like what if this other bad thing happens to me, or what if this turns out really bad? Those are questions our brain automatically asks. What if, what if, what if? But you can again reframe that and say, what if I can handle this? What if I can learn something from this? What if, like you said, I can grow stronger through this? What if I can bless somebody else with what I've just gone through? Those questions are empowering because we immediately go to the negative what ifs, right? And that takes a lot of observation of ourselves, a lot of pausing and, okay, this is what I'm thinking. Do I really want to believe that?
Yes, absolutely. Very well said. So, Isabella, they say that it is only in our darkest hours that we discover our true strength and learn our greatest lessons. So, what lessons did you learn, especially seeing your brother go through extreme mental health decline?
So many lessons. I don't think we have time for that. He taught me so much because even in his struggle, he was very honest. He was very generous. He volunteered. In his meager income, he had very little income, but he was, employed through the government um, in a place for disabled people, but he earned very little. And with that meager income, he was supporting a child, I believe in Haiti. With little, he still was generous. So I can learn from him. You can still do good things even though you're struggling. You can still be generous. You can still volunteer. And one thing I'm actually continuing to do, and it's not as easy as it sounds. He had a weekly joke that he brought to work. And I met his boss when I went to hold my brother's memorial in February. I met his boss. I call him Angel Without Wings. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. What he did is he brought a weekly joke to work. And I'm like, I need to continue that tradition, and it's not easy. And I believe my brother wanted to give up on that. And his boss told me he wouldn't let him. He said, no, to my brother, no, Marcel, it's your turn. You do the joke and I will not do it. So he kind of gave it back to him. So just consistency and he was also very honest with his feelings. So I learned that from him too. When he was angry, he was angry. When he was happy, he was happy. And in the beginning, I'm a little younger than him. I'm a couple of years younger. I always thought, I need to help. I need to give advice. But he would tell me very clearly in his blunt honesty, I didn't ask for your advice, Isabelle. I'm like, so he would put me in my place. And then I learned, because you ask what I learned. I learned, again, to accept whatever he was feeling at that moment. If he was angry, I would be angry with him. Yeah, that really sucks. Yeah, what that boss said wasn't okay. He had two places of employment. Not one was a really understanding and kind boss, and the other one not so. So I would learn to be with him in that moment. If he was upset at something, I would validate that. Yes, that makes sense. Gosh, that was hard. And when he was happy, I'd be like, yay, good day, that sounds good. And I would validate his feelings instead of trying to fix them. That was super, super helpful.
Wow. I mean, he must be a gem of a person. So I can
Yes.
understand your loss here and totally can.
Yes. Big loss.
Yeah. So Isabella, when we are faced or when we face, adverse situations, many of us tend to question, why me? Was there any point of your life when you gave up on life and became resentful or bitter?
Very good question. Yes, I had a long phase of being resentful and why me? And we call that the victim state, right? Why me? Why is this happening to me? Everybody else is doing better. And I think I don't know what years, but that was while I was raising my children and while I was in my marriage, and we're kind of going through a separation at this moment. So that's another, life challenge. So I think when that changed is when I had this first mentor, right, that I mentioned, and I was in my 40s. And then she was able to help me transform the why me to the what can I learn from this. And again, I needed that support. I needed that mentor to teach me that, because it wasn't automatic. It's not something I did automatically from going from why me to, okay, how can I handle this better? How can I change the story in my head about, there's always two stories and we don't have time for that, but anyone can contact me. I'll help them. There's one way we tell our life story as the victim, why me, and all the circumstances that are bad and terrible and hard, and I acknowledge them. And there is a way to tell it in a different way, right? And that's the empowered way. That's the, what if I can grow from this? What if I get stronger through this? What if I can bless somebody through this? And seeing the silver lining in all of this, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, it's very rightly said that, you have a choice to become a
Yes.
victim, or, to be a fighter, and,
Yes.
to be more empowered through the situation.
Exactly.
And, how you tell your story will actually define how you handle it as well.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Yeah.
Yes. So, life often isn't fair, but you rightly said that we have a choice. We can get comfortable with the turbulence and become a wiser and a better person, or
Mm-hmm.
stay resentful and bitter.
Mm-hmm.
uh, we cannot control the situations in life, but
Yeah.
what we can control is our response to them. So, it's us who can become a victim of that situation, or
Mm-hmm.
can be a fighter to that situation. So it
Yeah,
totally depends on us.
it does. Yeah.
So, so if you could go back in time, what would you change or do differently? Is there anything that you'd like to do differently? Probably you did it in past and you'd like, okay, I shouldn't have handled the situation like this. Maybe my life would have been different if I did it this way. Anything, any example that you have?
Yeah, so one thing, especially with my brother, is listening to those gut feelings or those ideas or whatever you want to call them, because I wanted to um, visit him and just me and him and spend a summer together. And I didn't follow through. So, because he, in the last, I would say 10 years, he came to visit us. So what I would change is listening to those prompts. And I don't know what good term to give it, though, those little inspirations, those little thoughts, that little small voice. Because now I totally regret not going and not spending that time with him. So not listening to the guilt, because guilt is also a motivator to do something, and that was my motivation to stay, not leaving the kids and not spending the money and all this. But what really matters, I mean, what would I give now to have had that summer with him? So that's one thing, to listen to that small voice and take it serious and not to push it down and to act on it, because it was a positive thing. It wasn't a bad thing that that small voice said. And there was another one, um, and that goes back to the victim story. What I've learned later in life, so I hope you have some younger listener who can learn this now, is that when you focus, what you focus on, your energy goes to. So if I focus on my problems all the time, it's almost like I'm stuck in the mud, right? I'm thinking about them, I'm telling a friend about them, I'm ruminating about it, and it's kind of like you're stuck in this mud, and there's nothing else. And if I could change that, I didn't have the tools back then, right? I would change it and use some of those empowering questions, right? I would change my focus on what's in the future. It's always better. Like, what can I do today? Again, I will do what I can with what I have. What can I do today to make this better? Right? That's a much better question to ask than why me? Why is this happening to me? Well, it is happening, so now what? So if I could do something different, I would stay in that resentment a lot shorter and move on to what can I do with this? Or what can I do for myself? What can I do for my family, for my community that is more beneficial? And you need a lot of, tools, the mindset and the emotional regulation to get away from that victim mindset. And that doesn't happen overnight, but you can practice that. And it's like a muscle that gets stronger when you use it. So that's one thing I would definitely change, not staying in that victim role too long.
Yes, absolutely. Uh, when it's said that you need to make your I bigger than the problem. So the moment you make yourself bigger than the problem, you'll always find the problem small enough to handle. And that's very important, because the moment you feel that the problem is bigger than you yourself and your existence, that's when the problem overpowers you, and
Yes,
you deal with all the struggles that you face.
true.
And yes, coming back to that guilt, I feel that whatever said and done, Isabelle, there would always be a moment of guilt when you lose someone, because you
Yeah.
would always feel that I wish I would have spent that 1 minute. I
Yes.
wish I would have picked up my phone and called once. That guilt would always remain, because you would never feel that you've done enough. So so don't feel like that, because I think that what had happened was for good at that point in time. So holding on to that guilt and feeling that, oh, I wish I would have gone that summer. I think even if you would have gone that summer, there would have been one more thing that you would have felt guilty about. So we just have to let go sometimes to
Hmm.
probably go ahead and move on in life, because
Hmm.
even today, when I think if I talk to my parents every day, and if there is one day I don't talk, I have this fear that what if I lose them, and
Yeah.
I don't call them again. So so it's very important that you value your relationships and be
Hmm.
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so one thing I understand what you're saying, and one thing I learned from that is to listen more to that voice, because it was important. And again, I wish I had listened. So maybe I can learn from the situation to take it serious from now on,
Yes.
right? Or sometimes it just says call so and so, or write so and so a card, or say hello to this stranger, or whatever it is. Or don't answer this email, or don't answer that text, right? Or bring so and so a dinner, whatever it is. I want to listen to that more. So that's my learning from that.
So I mean, whenever a thought comes in your mind, just you realize it more and think again that whether you should or should not listen to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very, very true. So embracing uncertainty is critical to our growth, because I'm sure that today, Isabella, wherever you are, you must be, feeling that you have grown as an individual.
Yes.
So it's like that with everybody. The more uncertainties we face,
Yeah.
they just make us become a better person. So
Mm-hmm.
I would like to end with what Khalil Gibran said. River cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of
Mm.
entering the ocean, because
Mm.
only then will fear disappear, because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. So
Wow. That is beautiful. You
yeah,
have to send that to me. I love that quote.
sure,
Beautiful. And that's our becoming, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'd like to just sum up the key takeaways that, I was probably noting down while we were
Okay.
talking. So, the first and the foremost thing is that we need to be true about our emotions. We have to acknowledge our emotions. We need to
Yeah.
build a strong support system through
Yeah.
which we can, vent out our feelings. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Journaling is one thing that will always help you out of a problem. Like, Isabella said that, when she lost her brother and she used to write every day the time she used to call her brother, that
Yeah.
really helps. And it has helped me too when I lost one of my very close friend. You know, journaling is the only thing through which I actually came out of it.
Good.
So, and making routines is very important. Don't just let your day pass through,
Yes.
make sure
Very
that you
important.
accomplish something in your day.
Yeah.
Observe your thoughts, and if you feel that you're going towards negative thoughts or negativity, try to reframe your
Yes.
thoughts. That's very important.
Yes.
Affirmations, the
Yeah.
way Isabella said, the affirmations that, okay, you are going through this and you can still do that. So that's very important.
Exactly.
You can turn yourself into a positive individual. And one affirmation that I really loved and I would like to re-quote here is, I can do what I can with what I have. That's beautifully said by you, Isabelle. And you always have a way to tell your story. You can either be a victim or empowered. So, it's your choice how you handle your problems, whether you want to become a victim or you want to be empowered through it.
Right. Correct. Beautiful. Beautiful summary.
Mm.
Yes.
So, thank you so much, Isabelle, for joining us today. I'm sure all the listeners would enjoy, listening to you and would definitely learn a lot about uncertainties and how to handle them. So, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. And that's who I love to help, woman going through uncertainties in life.
So, thank you and have a
Thank
nice
you.
day ahead. Thank you.
You too. It was a pleasure. Thank you.